Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to Molten Modular. Well, it's a rainy day today here in the shed in Norfolk, and so I've decided to crack on with my first DIY modular project. Oh yes, this is a Music Thing Modular Turing Machine. I've been promising to make this for months, and finally, I think today I'm going to get around to it. They say it takes an hour to build, so I've booked in about 3 weeks. When I first talked about doing this little project, a lot of people gave me some very helpful advice about the list of gear that I'm going to need, including all the anti-static things, the lead extraction, fumigator stuff and tools and bits and things. I've kind of got a soldering iron, is what I've got. I've got a soldering iron that I picked up off Amazon for like a tenner many years ago. I do have a functional sponge, which is great, because I couldn't find that initially, so I'm very pleased to have found my sponge. I have some solder, this stuff here. This is lead-free solder, so it says on it. Apparently that's terrible, but that's what I've got. I have a solder sucker, which is probably the most useful tool that I ever discovered in my meager soldering years, months. I think I've soldered about twice. But this is very, very useful. I have a pair of things, some screwdrivers, some wire cutters type things, and this, which I usually use for painting Warhammer figures. But I think this can also be used, or helpful at least, in a soldering environment. For holding things, that's my assumption anyway. I have the instructions open on the surface here, which should hopefully take me step by step through everything I need to do in order to construct this amazing little module. And it is an amazing module. It's something which can create random voltages, which is very much something that I'm interested in, because I want to create noises and stuff. It's another sort of sequencer which uses really interesting and deep algorithms to produce voltages and stuff. So here it is. I haven't prepped any of this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to jump in with the instructions, with a couple of cameras to capture this disaster which is about to unfold on my lovely anti-static mat. So the idea behind doing this is to demonstrate, hopefully, that anyone can do this. You don't need to have masses of experience in electronics or design or engineering in order to attempt something like this. Attempt, mind, because it might be a complete disaster. We don't know, but at least I'll get a badge out of it, so that's good. So enough stalling. I should probably open the bag and actually get on with it. I have my front panel already. That sort of came separately, and that's very smart. I'm liking that. Then in here, there's another bag. Oh, look, a bag of resistors and LEDs and stuff. I've got 2 PCBs that I am going to be soldering together. An hour. It says it takes there's no way this is taking an hour. I mean, look at the state of this. Good for beginners, they said. Bag B, full of the more chunky stuff. Things with spokey things on it. Knobs and that. And something probably really important in this one. Step 1, empty the 2 bags into 2 bowls. I have some CD cases here, so let's do that. Which was A, which was B? Does it matter? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Put those down there. Let's try not to break or scratch anything. Okay, to start with this PCB. That one. Which is that one? This one? That one. And we call it the IC PCB. I guess because it's got the ICs on it. Put this one out of the way over here. Next, find the 10K resistors. 10K times 10. So for the IC PCB, there are 6 resistors. R1, R8, R14, R15, R16, R24. Now, that doesn't refer to anything on here because the value of these resistors is 10K. We know that because we know the rings on here. We all know what the rings on resistors mean. But we can look that up if we need to. But we know these are 10K, and these numbers here actually refer to things labelled on the board itself. I believe that to be right. So I need 6. What I need is 6. Doesn't matter which 6, I just need to take 6. One. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. It says, number 4, solder the 6 resistors onto the board. So there you go, you just get stuck in, you just have to do it, you have to embrace it, you have to embrace this idea of soldering and just flippin' well do it. I'm not ready for this. No, I am ready for this. It's just that I might do one and then I might take a break for a couple of weeks and then I'll come back and do the rest. I don't know yet. I'm just going to have to give it a go. So it says that I can zoom into this to have a look and see how it goes. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That's such a great thing. So now that I can see how they go in, so let's just take one, make sure we get it the right way around. So we've got the banding correct on the image. So it should be like that. And it has to go through this space over here, R16, there's a 1, there's a 10K. So the band goes that way around. Yeah, I can sense all of you DIYers at home cringing at this point, or laughing, or I don't know. Maybe you're having some kind of game where you take a shot of something every time I do something stupid. You are going to be extremely drunk. Oh, look at that. See, look, I put a resistor in. Okay, that's good. They're in the right place. That's something. Now, before you all start wandering off, I'm not going to make you all sit through this in real time. I will just cut to the chase and to the interesting bits. I just wanted to get over my first little bit of soldering first before we then assume that I can do any more. So we're going to have a go at soldering this, and then, as I say, the editing will get a lot quicker. Okay, so there's my first 6 resistors. There they are. All I've got to do now is solder the little buggers to the board. Easy. This is close work. I'm going to have to take my glasses off. Now there are details in the manual here that shows you what your joint should look like and that it should flow through both sides, and I think that has. It's not come up particularly well on this side, but on that side it has. I think I'm going to go with that. Now I can't see you over there now, but that's just going to have to be something we're going to contend with. So let's have a go at the rest. Of course, I'm already running into some problems. I'm getting far too much solder on the iron rather than in the joint. And then when I try to get it off on my sponge, I've now ended up melting the power cable onto the side of the soldering iron, which is nice, but we persevere. Now, considering it's been years since I've done any proper soldering, I don't think that's too bad. Now I'm getting to the point where I have to install the IC sockets, which is a lot of soldering in rows. And you may be asking yourself, why have I not taken all these legs off? Well, it's because I'm too scared. To snip the legs would mean that I believe I've done it right, and I can't quite reconcile that yet, and it gives me the impression that I could fix it if it's not right, which is nonsense because it's going to have to all come off. But at the moment, I don't know, until they get in the way too much, I'm going to leave them there, and the instructions haven't said snip the legs off. So, you know, just to point out here that the wonderful job that Thonk or Music Thing, whoever it is who's produced this, Music Thing Modular it says over here, just how well they've printed these PCBs, because everything is printed on here. It tells me exactly which way around everything should go, even down to the IC holders. It's got a printing of that on the PCB, which gives me where the notch is, so I can't get it wrong. I'm sure I could get it wrong, but they've done everything to help you with this. So although it seems initially daunting, all this PCB and all this soldering, actually putting it together is really easy. It's straightforward. It's not mystical or confusing in any way. So that one is going to pop in there. And then you've got to solder these weenie legs at the bottom without the whole thing falling out. Let's see if I can turn this over without them all falling out. No, that didn't work. All right, I'm just let me start with the middle one. Maybe that's going to make things easier. That's not bad at all. I'm quite pleased with that. It's very interesting. You sort of get a sense that you know how much of this you're pushing in every time. And so, kind of like any repetitive task, it can get a little bit sort of meditative, quite contemplative, quite sort of zen-like. You go into this zone of soldering, which is really quite nice. I can see the attraction of this sort of thing because the process itself is actually quite enjoyable. So that's my IC holders done. It's really starting to shape up. It's capacitor time. 1 squiggle 2, 1 squiggle 2. That looks right. Those must be them. Cool. I have to say that the Surface is a perfect tool for this and allowing me to very quickly blow up the PDF that I'm looking at in order to see the images, because the images on the instructions are all at high resolution, so you can zoom in and see exactly what you're doing, which is brilliant. And a touch interface is perfect for that. Now, me not cutting the legs off is starting to cause me a bit of trouble because there's now far too legs that I can't get in there properly. Voltage regulators. 3-legged voltage regulators. Had a little bit of a panic there, but I couldn't find my voltage regulators. They were actually in this anti-static bag along with the ICs. So that had me a little flummoxed there for a minute. I could not find them, couldn't work out where they were. Check the anti-static bag. Good tip. No, that's completely wrong. Try not to get them the wrong way round. Try to follow all the clues you've given, like the information on the screen, the fact that it's printed on the bleeding PCB. Let's try not to get it the wrong way around. And that looks like a really good place to stop for lunch. And we're back. So far it's taken about an hour. According to the PDF here, I'm about halfway. I don't know how that translates to actual build time. And we've nearly completed the first PCB. And I only have about an hour left in time today to get this finished. So it'll be interesting to see whether I can complete this in about the 2 hours that I have. Let's crack on. You see that? Well, I right royally messed that one up there. So I'm now going to employ the secret weapon of all solderers, which is the solder sucker. Excellent. Now it's at this point that I have to solder these 2 headers, or 3 headers, onto the other side. I have to turn the whole thing upside down in order to do it. So to do that, I need those to push against the bench, which of course they're not going to because of all my spindly legs. And this is the first time I've actually got to see the other side of the board in the documentation, and all of the legs have been trimmed. So this is the time at which I need to do that. Now that's not the neatest job in the world, but it'll do me. Now can you see what's happened there? You see that? Because of the way that it was down on my bench and I was soldering it, it was at a slight angle, which means now that that is at a slight angle. Now I could attempt to heat all of those up at once in order to try to adjust it. I just don't know whether I can. And actually, it's not the most terrible thing in the world. I mean, this is the power connector. It's not going to have a shield or a board put on top of it. It's just for this connector here. So the fact that it's a little bit on one side, I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's an issue. At least I hope not, because I'm going to go with it. Now it's time for the ICs. So with the ICs, orientation, it says, is vital. And you need to bend the pins inwards slightly so that 90 degrees to the body of the chip. Well, aren't they that already? They come slightly splayed out. Okay. This can be done safely by clasping 4 pins in a pair of pliers. Okie dokie. So orientation like the picture. So what have I got here? Now, I'm not going to do as it suggests, I don't think. Or am I? Maybe. Four pins. Because I have done this before, and I tended to push them up against something in order to bend them all at the same time. Because I've already bent these awkwardly. See, the way I would do it would be to roll it on a table slightly like that on both sides, because that way I know they're all getting bent to the same degree. And look, that's gone in pretty damn perfectly. Oh yes. Now it's at this point that the manual says, is it late? Maybe go to bed and try again in the morning, which is good advice, I have to say. I mean, I've been at this now about an hour and a half. Oh, look, that's a bit bent up. It's okay. It's okay. And I've got about 20 minutes left before I have to go and do other things. And it looks very much like this. The first PCB is complete. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, it took some time consuming and stuff, because I'm not very practiced at the old soldering, but that was remarkably straightforward. I won't say that it was easy, because soldering is a bit tricky, something which you have to get the hang of, but it wasn't anywhere near as daunting as I imagined. So I'm not going to quite call it a day yet. I'm going to have a stab at the other one just to see where we get to, and then I'll have to finish this off another time. This is the second PCB. It's called the jack PCB, and this presumably is where all your sockets and knobs go. And we start off with a really weeny diode. I might even have the confidence now to cut these off as I go. 10 resistors in one hit. Okay. So there we go, not too bad. I am well on my way. One board done, another one with a bunch of resistors on, getting there. That's 2 hours in, not too bad for a first go, really. I mean, you know, what I'm finding is that you need to give this a good afternoon or an evening. And they stick little notes in the manual to suggest taking a break, which I think is really wise and a great idea. And I'm very, very impressed with the documentation, very impressed with the PCB and how it's all taken you by the hand. And that this is completely doable. Completely doable. I'll come back to this. See you later. And we're back. A new day, a new shirt, back to my little project. Now, I had some bother. I got back to this yesterday, sat down, started at it, had everything running, all the cameras, all the lights, everything on, ready to go. 1, 2, 3, go. Here we go. And I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get it to work. I could not get the solder to melt. It was as if someone had turned off the laws of physics and it just was no longer going to function. Heating things up no longer melted things. I could not get my head around it. So I wasted an hour or so fussing around, fiddling around, trying to work out what had gone wrong. And in my usual way of frustration, when things aren't going right, I have to then go buy something. So I ordered myself a new soldering iron, because what I discovered was that the one that I had, I'd left it on kind of overnight, which is horribly dangerous. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. But I'd left it on. So my assumption is that it's either sort of burnt itself out or done something else. I've been on the Eurorack synthesizers Facebook group and asked the wise and knowledgeable people there, and they have suggested that the problem is probably oxidization on the end of the tip, which can happen if you don't clean the tip properly, which is probably what happened. I don't know. Anyway, I borrowed an old soldering iron off my dad and I couldn't get that to work either, but then it was probably last used before I was born. So in a flurry, I've got a new one off Amazon. It was about 20 quid, came in a kit, but this one has got a temperature dial on, which I quite like the idea of, which means I can turn it up if it's not melting things. But I'm just going to have to give that a go and put the other thing down to experience. I mean, you do need to look after your tools properly, and I don't really know how to do that yet because I'm still learning. And this is one of the problems, I suppose, when you start getting into DIY, is that there are elements of things which you're not going to get straight away. You're not going to understand straight away. I mean, that's the whole modular thing, is that you do have to start somewhere. You have to get in there and start doing it, because otherwise, if you're trying to wait to have all the knowledge first, you're never going to make those first steps. So although I was soldering like a boss the first time I tried to do it, this reminds me that I don't actually know, and I am learning. And I'm trying to do this as an exercise in broadening my own mind and my own skill set and trying to do something new and different. And it's not always going to be plain sailing. It's not always going to be simple. And sometimes you just have to buy another iron. Right, that seems to be all the resistors on there. And as you can see, they are perfectly uniform. Like heck they are. They're all over the place. Look at that. What it'll have to do is what I'm doing, and I'm getting on doing it. I guess when you turn something upside down, it then drops a little bit, and so I could perhaps work out a way of doing that better, like bending the legs a little bit, that kind of thing. But we're learning here. We're learning all this stuff. So what's next? IC sockets. Right. Okay. The little trimmer. This has to go down here. 1, 2, 3. That ain't exactly flush, but it's not far off. I'm having to say that the new soldering iron I have is really doing the trick, and I'm able to do the soldering with the actual tip as opposed to just kind of the side of the tip, as I've found with the soldering iron I was using the other day. That's got to be a good thing. This, I don't know, let's keep at it. Let's just keep at it. 2N3904, that's the fella. Magnifying glass, stunningly useful. So that, I think, is all of the sort of electronics components, and now what I've got left is the chunky stuff, the knobs and the sockets and that kind of thing, and the LEDs. We're nearly there. Awesome. If your pots have the small anti-rotation tag, that one, then break them off first. Done. Do not solder yet. Okay, right. So position them as shown. This, like that, goes like that. This big jobby goes here. All right. Note, the longer lead for the LED must go to the pad marked with a plus on the PCB silkscreen. Now, reading ahead, the idea is that you need to have everything right with your front panel before you solder everything together. So this is going to go on here. That's awesome. Look at that. I flippin' built that almost. But with the LEDs in particular, they need to make sure that everything is seated and set in the right place, and that these are poking through where you want them to be. That's why we're not soldering straight away. At least that's my theory. I'm going to go with that. So here are my LEDs. Let's whack those in. Now it says if I want to fit the flathead LEDs so that they fit flush to the panel, then apply masking tape over the holes in the panel. So it's asking me if I want those to go through those little holes in a flush way, which I think I do. I think that's what we need to do. Then I'm going to need to stick some masking tape on here in order, presumably, that I push them up and it sticks to them. That's my assumption. Damn, didn't have any masking tape. Need to find masking tape. Rats. Found some masking tape. Secure in place by hand tightening the pot and switch nuts and a couple of jack nuts. Before you solder, you're going to push all 10 LEDs into the holes in the panel. So the flat heads are sticking to the masking tape and held nicely flush. Right. Oh, so there, perfect. Now, with the panel holding everything correctly aligned, finally solder all the pots, switches, jacks and LEDs. Okay, let's do this. So, double check all solder joints. I think they look pretty good. I think they look pretty good to me. Now, unfortunately, I've got to take the thing off again. Apparently, so I've got to put the ICs in the sockets, which we haven't done. They're here, look, we haven't done that yet. So, that's in, that's in. Make the two boards together. Right, right, okay. So these have to go together, like so. Ooh. Look at that. Look at that. Now finally, the metal thing over the top. Screw it all back on. No, that's not the right place for the knob. Oh no, I get so far, and I put the friggin' knob on the wrong pot. Gee whiz. Is that ever coming off there? Flipping neck. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, all the way around. Put this there. Okay. Well, look at that. That is the whole thing. Look at that. You'd call that a flipping module, wouldn't you? You'd call it a module. You'd say that that was a perfectly made Eurorack module. And I built it. I did. I soldered it. You know, I put it together like a piece of Lego. So there you are, that's one Music Thing Modular Turing Machine. Look at that. That's amazing. And now I can't really express exactly how that feels. I don't mean the knob, I mean how it feels to have built this. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was a long process. It took me probably about 3 to 4 hours. 4 hours, probably. I mean, that's a whole afternoon or an evening or something, which isn't too bad. But it was great. You're following instructions. I mean, the instructions from Music Thing were exemplary, superb, step by step. A picture, a high resolution picture of everything that you were doing, so you could go back and check. I've even got all my resistors around the same way that they have on the instructions, just because it seemed like the best thing to do. Phenomenal instructions. I mean, when I started way back the other day when I soldered the first thing together, I just thought, this is how, what, I've just got to start soldering? There doesn't seem to be any preparation for that. Well, there is. I should go out and look at other soldering videos. In fact, I am going to go and do that, because I'm not entirely sure of how well that really went or how better it could have done. And I'm sure all of you very experienced DIYs out there are looking at my soldering and just going, oh my goodness, which reminds me, where are my glasses? And that's fine. You're welcome to advise me on better ways to solder. Please jump into the comments below and, you know, give me hell about all the nightmarish that I'm poking myself in the eye and breathing noxious fumes or whatever it is that I'm doing. I would welcome your tips and your support and your chat about how that went. So yeah, DIY modular then. That's a thing. That's a thing I could certainly get into. I would like to do a lot more of that. It's immensely fun and rewarding and satisfying, and when you're focused in there on that soldering point, that's just great. The whole world just goes away and you are doing your thing. With a kit from Thonk or your local DIY modular place, it's well worth it. Go get yourself one. Try it out. Just see how it goes. But if you've ever considered doing a DIY project and you've thought, no, it's going to be too hard or too difficult, then I hope that I have shown that it doesn't have to be so. It will take time. It will take some patience and perseverance. But it's not difficult. It's not difficult, it's not hard, it's not a difficult skill to learn, and you get plenty of practice in doing something of this nature. Now, this is not about surface mount components, that's a whole different thing. Or is it? I mean, I understand that it's not as difficult, again, as people would like to believe, but they are dealing with tiny things, whereas this, with through-hole stuff, yeah, that's a really good place to cut your teeth in terms of soldering. So now, all that remains is for me to plug the thing in. Should we give that a go? Right. Get this out of here, otherwise I don't know what's going on. Okay, I've plugged it in. Are we all still watching? Oh my goodness. And I'm just going to turn the fella on. Look, lights, lights. I don't know whether it should have lights on all at once or what. I have no idea. Now, my suspicion is at this point that something doesn't work. Oh, that's a shame. Maybe it needs a clock. Yes! Oh my goodness me! Look, something happened. Let's bring this in. I don't know, I don't have any idea how this thing works. So at the moment, as far as I can see, I've got lights going on, I've got something which changes something, I've got a length thing which does something, and I've got a scale which goes all the way up and all the way down. And the thing that made it work, that brought it into life, was sticking the clock into the clock inputs. That's a good tip. Randomness, that's what I was after. That's exactly what I'm after. Right, I'm going to get the manual out and check out how that's supposed to work. But there you go, it flipping worked. I plugged it in, it got me a little bit concerned there for a minute, and then it worked. That was awesome. So that is the Music Thing Modular Turing Machine. DIY build by yours truly. I hope that's been extraordinarily inspirational, and I hope to do a lot more of these projects very soon. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, then please consider sponsoring me on my Patreon campaign. The link is in the description. All it is a place where you can throw me a few dollars to keep the content and the videos flowing. And don't forget to share this about, to subscribe, to comment, to chat to me about your adventures in modular. And in the meantime, go and make some tunes.